And this game made me physically angry. I'm not downplaying that in any way, shape, or form. I was furious as we got to the end of this game. The finale, the last 20 minutes were just me out of stubbornness pushing through to get this done. I was like, I am over it. I am so done with this game, and I need to get, which is weird because it started so promising. One of the most frustrating things in the world for gamers, I think, is when a game you're pretty much enjoying, having a good time with, it's not the greatest game in the world, but you're having a good time, right? It's fine. Just dives off a cliff in its finale. Just absolutely drops off a cliff. It feels like they just need to tie all this up somehow, and it's kind of been jank along the way, and they just throw it in there. I'll describe what happened, and then I'll put my final thoughts to this game, because I have many, and there are signs of what happened here that I think was just a crying shame, honestly. I did talk in the last TDP, where I went through the stories, that the story was going pretty well for the first 3.5 chapters of 5. There are 5 chapters in the game. The first 3.5 kind of made sense what the hell was going on. And then just as chapter 4 finished, I then was like, that's odd. This is weird. This doesn't really add up anymore. We've had a weird sing-song that doesn't really be relevant. And now we've decided that if we just tell Shoes that his girl loved him, which from all accounts he knew, then everything will be fine. And he will no longer want to unleash the vagina gun upon the world and destroy everything. And I'm like, what? That doesn't add up. And it just, so I was like, okay, but sure, it's Final Fantasy. Love and togetherness and unity is kind of a thing in those games. So I'm like, all right, I guess, although it's really not clicking for me. Anyway, I did try and tie up most of the excess hotspots that pop up for endgame, but they're massive grinds. That was so apparent so quickly, as these are just huge grinds that aren't worth your time in at all. I did discover a cheat, though. I would say it's a cheat, but it seems like just something that was probably overlooked as to how powerful it is, and just destroys everything before you get into the grinding, right? If you grind your characters up and have super accessories and super amounts of levels, then you would not do this. But if you are where I am, which was level 50 on my characters, so you're not in the crazy overpowered state. You don't have the super ridiculously powerful items, because there are some crazy ones. The spell Darkness. Darkness is full broken. Why? It ignores everything the enemy does. Final Fantasy X-2 falls into the same trappings that a lot of the Final Fantasies do, is that when they make a major boss, a really hard boss, the first thing they do is make it just immune to all strategies. And what I mean by that is they can't be CC'd, they can't be affected by anything. They usually have some level of protection, so they'll have guard, or they'll have shell, or something like that, mighty guard. And you can't do any of the cool stuff that your characters can do. I love it when it's figuring out, is oh, this thing's actually weak to darkness or poison, or we can actually stop it and delay its attack. Things like that actually are a more thinking counter to what's going on. Usually not. And what they do more in FF10-2 that I noticed with the not super bosses, I fought, some people call them super bosses, but I wouldn't necessarily put them in that category, was that they're immune to everything. They have massive damage reduction. And also they usually have 1, if not 2 one-shot spells. That's it. All right, so one of them will have just randomly cast Flare, which will just eradicate one of your players, so you have to res them. Or they'll have Ultima, or they'll have some variation of that will just kill your characters. That's it. There's not much you can do about it, and you just have to res them. The game knows about this. I have never had a Final Fantasy game that I did not buy a single Phoenix down throughout this entire game, and I always had 99. They knew 100% there was so many things in this game, including basic trash mobs, that will just wipe out your players. And so we'll just give you tons of Phoenix downs to res them, which is not as fun as trying to figure out a way of getting around it. If I compare it to Final Fantasy X, my fight versus Omega, where I had to come up with a really complex strategy of how to bypass certain elements of it using the skills available, that was much more fun for me. These were just more raw, straight up, like, I hit harder than you. I can kill you before you kill me kind of thing. So I got to... I was ready and raring to go for the final chapter. Off we go on this magical journey where we're going to jump into the holes that the vagina gun has made that's been released in the Aeons. We're going into the hole. Okay, what is it? It's a sort of endgame dungeon, reminiscent of something you would see in like FF6 and 4. Not bad. Then it had another mini games attached to it. Again, with the mini games. And illogical, just completely bizarre mini games. This time they decided to go with pianos. The loosest thread you could tug here for this to make sense for this game is that, well, the girls are like pop stars. That's musical. A piano is also musical, so it's very, very flimsy. Let's put it that way. It's very, very flimsy. Super, super flimsy. So I got into this area that just has these like lightning gates that protect you going through it. That knock you back if you try and go through them. You can walk through those, but ultimately if you do and you don't do the musical puzzle correctly, you will get a punishment mob, is the way I would describe it. Not like it is in the Endless Dungeons, where it has like practically unkillable dragons that you're not supposed to fight, but they're very obvious and there's a way around them. In this one, the way you do it is you have to hunt down these platforms that will give you musical notes for a piano. So it'd be like, do, re, mi. I made notes on this because if you fail it, you just get killed and you have to do it again. So I have all these notes of going through this place because if you die, you have to go and find them again in order to put them back in to remember the order. Because it starts with like 2. It's like so, re, mi to try and teach you this. You play the piano. That then allows, it stops the punishment dragon from getting you. And then you'll go to the next one, and then immediately jumps up to like 4 or 5 of these things that you've got to find. What it's also not telling you is that you're supposed to write these down. Why? Because they're going to do another mini game later that involves what you've just done, and there's no way you could possibly know this is going to happen. The first thing I thought was Omega, which was interesting. I didn't even recognize that as it being Omega, but it just died. It was like really simple. It was whatever, and Omega's dead. I was like, oh, okay, sure. The next one, I can't remember the name of this dragon. It's like Adu Kara, something like that. And it is just a monumental amount of health, like monumental, in the hundreds of thousands of HP. And hits you like an absolute truck, but not really enough to kill you. It will kill you if it hits you twice, but you can survive, which makes you not knowing how much HP it's got, and you don't really have time at this point in the game to just have a gun mage to scan it. I did pull that off later on, just in a throwaway attempt, because I was like, what is this thing? Because you could kill Omega, and that if you kill the punishment enemy, you can go through. It gives you, like, you can do the puzzle, or you can do a hard fight. I would much rather do a hard fight than hunt down all these piano things, then go to a piano, and then start... It's not Resident Evil, right? And then put in all the piano notes in the correct order, which you're not exactly sure which way they should go. It does tell you at the bottom once you've found all of them, which is why I got to write them down to go through there. This took a while to get through and was not particularly fun. Before all this, you've ran through various other areas of the game to get to this. Then it got to the final bit of the puzzle. What is it? It's just a mishmash of tunnels. Not of tunnels, of platforms. These platforms are all dotted around in a very pretty kind of way, very aesthetic. But where they go and what they do, you don't know until you stand on them. And then by doing that, it will take you, like traverse you up to an area, and then you will stand on a platform and it will give you more musical notes. So my initial impression was, and it did tell you, there was like a mini tutorial before this, of you've got to find all the notes to do the final piano puzzle. Okay, but it won't tell you which platform is which. And this time, the twist is whichever you stood on in the order, and there's like 7 of these in various areas, and once you go to an area, you're somewhat locked to doing that. You can't go back because you have to go off the platform to come back onto it to get it to move again, which means you have to jump on the platform that will give you the note. That locks you into the order that you found them. So the puzzle is, you need to have remembered the order of the previous piano puzzles. You then need to trial and error all of these 7 other platforms, if not 8, to find out which one is which. The pathway you use to get there, because one platform will take you like up and left, another one will take you up and left, but then lead to another one. And then you've got to put your song in the right order, kind of blind, right? Without a pen and paper, I'm not sure how you do this. Then you need to go up to a final area, stand on another platform, which will then play all 8 of the things you found, which is a very long song, and then it will check. And if you don't do that, you then fight this Abdu Karar thing, right? Now, you can flee from that. But if you flee, it will not let you in any way, shape, or form change the order of the notes that you found. Won't let you. Which means you're forced to die. That's the only way I found you could do this, is you are forced to die. So we were writing it down, but then we were like, okay, I need to go back and figure out. And so what you have to do is go and trial and error the platforms, and then go, oh, I got that wrong, but you can't change it. So now you need to go and die, right? You need to go and die, and then you need to be like, right, I need to go left, up, right, left, up, and figure this all out into the correct way, then we can do it, which would take you a couple of goes to figure out if you didn't already know the order. It became very apparent to me that a lot of people who played this game found out you're supposed to, if you want a really good experience, you should play with a guide. I'm not joking, like, you should play with a guide, and then you would not get this wrong, because people are like, I don't remember doing this. I'm like, yeah, this is what it's actually asking you to do. On the 4th go, I was like, I'm just going to kill this. I did not know how much HP it had, but I was like, I can survive this. I set up a team that can actually survive the Abdu Karar dragon. So I'm just going to kill it. Not knowing it has hundreds of thousands of HP. 25 minutes of the most tedious combat ever. And I know someone's going, well, you're not supposed to fight it. I know, but the alternative is also just as annoying. It's just not fun at all to deal with this. Like, you either go in knowing the order beforehand, or you end up in this constant loop of trial, death, write it down, okay, and then making these notes as to where you're supposed to go. Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know, but this is the situation I ended up in, all right? So I know somebody's going to be going, actually, if you do this, this, and this, it all makes perfect sense, or whatever, but this is what I ended up with. So I fought it. 25 minutes. 25 minutes it took me. But it died, and because it's a punishment thing, and you're not supposed to fight it, it gives you an ether, right? I used like multiple mega elixirs because I was just spamming darkness. Thank God for darkness, because it bypassed all of its defenses and things like that to get it killed. And that's when I really locked in on how good darkness was, because it was constantly just downplaying all my damage. It didn't matter if I was like, okay, let's go with some armor break, and maybe like power down so I could counter it, and then, you know, magic down for this ability. It didn't matter. All that tactical stuff went out the window. It's just defense to everything. It doesn't matter. But darkness just gets through that, and so it's consistent damage. 25 minutes later, I managed to kill it. This was the end of my day on Friday. I was like, ugh. I was so over it by this point, because it was boring. It was really boring. But both were boring, right? It wasn't like this bit was boring, I could have done the other thing. Both of them were boring. And I didn't know. Once I found out how much HP it's got, I was like, oh my God. But it also heals itself. I should mention that. It heals itself. I think its effective health was probably somewhere near 600,000 HP. Because it constantly, every time it damages you, it heals itself. So you'll do like, I don't know, you'll do 6k damage, but it will heal for 3. You know, that kind of angle. So I got through that, saved the game, came back the next day. The autosave actually saves you before I fought the dragon. I was so terrified that the dragon would just come back, and it did. But thankfully, my hard save was after I killed the dragon, and the game does let you through. If you killed the dragon, it's just going to let you through. I was like, oh, thank God, because I got my notebook out again. I was like, right, we're going to have to write down all these musical notes and get them correct. But no, I managed to get through. And then we're playing into the final big string of boss encounters. It was... the ideas are all there, right? You have all the main guys show back up. Nuge is leading the way because he's formerly been possessed by Shoes. So he's like, okay, he wants to like sacrifice himself, right? And then you've got LeBlanc's team. They show up and you're going to fight different parts of Vagina Gun. We start with the tail. Somebody else is going to deal with the torso, and the whole squad like divvies up to go and fight things. Your team stays as one, 3 girls, and the other NPCs go and fight different parts of it. I had figured out how to kill things because of the other fights with Darkness, that everything died within like 3 hits. It was just nonsensical at this point. It was so ridiculous. It was like I discovered Darkness because a lot of these parts of these fights are like spawning ads, like arms and things like that you've also got to kill. But Darkness is also an AoE spell, and it doesn't cost mana, so their mana drain is ineffective as long as you can heal them. I just found that having 2 Dark Knights spam Darkness and 1 White Mage that just healed them up because Darkness costs HP just eradicated everything. Some of the things would spawn and then immediately die because Darkness was already queued up, so they'd just get killed and then he never did anything. So I was like, all right, off we go. I arguably could have made the fight worse for myself, but I'm done by this point, right? I really don't care. And I will say that my live audience was like, we don't care either. It's just like let's get this done. So because I just wanted to see how the story would play out. So we defeat the tail. Then we notice like LeBlanc's team is really struggling with their one. They're losing. So you go up there. Again, nonsensically, you arrive to help them and they leave. And you're like, wait, no, we're here to help you. And they just leave. And you're like, oh, come on, man. So then you fight this bit from scratch, you kill that other piece of it, and then you work your way up until you're all kind of together. And what you have is the giant monster in a very cinematic FF cutscene, of course. And on top of it, for some reason, is Shoes, who's possessing Belial or whatever he's called, the other guy, playing an organ. There's been no setup for this at any point as to what he's even doing. Like, is this how you control Vagina Gun? Because there's no pianos in the Vagina Gun prison or anything like that keep it soothed, you know? Are we talking like a Cerberus angle? I don't know. But he's on top and he's like all Phantom of the Opera is like playing it. It looks like Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's like, dun, 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 and you're like, what is he doing? I don't know. I don't know. But we need to take this down. Then there's a very phallic Vagina Gun extension. Quite the grower. As it just extended out. It made me laugh, actually, to see this thing. But again, the fight itself is pointless. Because it just dies. I don't even know why we're killing it, really. This thing is mentioned earlier in the game as being very sensitive. Maybe even childlike. Detects... I was really hoping... Because we come up with a plan. I'm getting ahead of myself. As we get there, the final cutscene with Nuji is, what is the plan? And Nuji's like, I'm going to like kill myself. I'm going to draw in Shoes and then I'm going to sacrifice this body so that Shoes is gone and that will bring an end to this kind of thing. And Yuna goes, no. It's the line of the game. She just goes, your plan? It sucks. Okay, plan sucks. And she goes on about, we did that back in FF10 and I've just lived with regret and guilt for all this time because Tidus died and all these kind of things. Like, all my friends died. Like, it sucked. Like, this is what I thought I had to do. Kind of okay with that. The delivery is iffy, but I'm kind of okay with Yuna going, I've been here before. And honestly, despite the fact that it made everybody happy and the world was quote unquote saved, we're right back here again. And this doesn't work, and there's got to be a way of doing this. And how do we do that? And that's when it lost me again. It goes, love. So we got a new plan. We're going to shower Shoes with love, but we've got to kill Vagina Gun first. I really wish they'd gone more into what Vagina Gun was. I thought it was really interesting, is that it had this, like, self-awareness that if it was safe and people weren't trying to harm it, it was very chill. It was just relaxed. It was cool. But when it's threatened, that's when it responds. And that's what happened back in the day when the possessed Shoes showed up who wanted to not only use it, but destroy it. That's what caused it to break out and go haywire. I was hoping it's like, maybe we can communicate with it or something like that. You know, we might have to fight it, but we're trying to not destroy it. And then something could happen. I thought it'd been cool. But no, Vagina Gun is just a thing to kill at this point. It's just been bypassed. The story is focused on Shoes and Lenny. All right. So you kill Vagina Gun. And down comes Shoes for the final fight. I would say the last fight is broken into, I think, 5 phases, essentially, 5 separate fights. All the parts of Vagina Gun itself, and then Shoes. Shoes comes down, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna fight you." But he does nothing. I think he does all of Tidus's like limit breaks as his attacks, which is cool to see. But they hit for like 70. We have thousands upon thousands of HP. They hit for like 70 by this point. And so I was like, all right, okay, whatever. So you just blow him up and he's done. And then we have the big finale, which is trying to just get Shoes to understand that he can rest now. So like the spirit of Lenny comes out and says, you've got to let go, blah, blah, blah. He's not happy about it. He's like, I let you down. You got shot. It was like, well, you both got shot. We've seen the cutscene. And there wasn't much you guys could do about this whole situation. Like a firing squad attacked you both. You know, it just doesn't make sense based on what we've seen in the game, to be like full of regret. I'm not sure whether she's supposed to eat like more bullets. Is that the plan? I get he's guilty that he lived, right? But I mean, there was no saving that salvaging that situation in any way, shape, or form. And it also occurred to me at this point, it's like maybe now your guys lived for 1,000 years and, you know, killed a lot of people, shot a lot of his friends, and tried to erase the world. Maybe he's less attractive now, right? maybe, you know, I don't know. Some girls don't like that. That's all I'm saying. Some girls don't like that if you become like a genocidal maniac. I don't know. You know, some girls probably do. You know, some girls probably do. Some girls are visiting, you know, serial killers in prison. Whatever. Lenny didn't strike me as the pop star singstress, but whatever. Whatever, sure. And so we can put his spirit to rest and everybody's hunky-dory, and that's the end of the game. That's the end of the game. The bad ending, apparently. Apparently there's because this game is obviously designed for a lot of replay play. Either way, that's the game. And it ends there with Yuna going to be Yuna and have adventures and things like that, and everybody's happy and blah 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 blah. They have this I have to mention it because it's just so stupid. The finale is in the big stadium, the big Blitzball stadium, where Nuge and the 3 main leaders of the game, of New Yevon and blah blah blah, are having a speech to the crowd where they're just rallying them. It's like a political rally, and it's just full of the most generic crap ever. It's like, we're gonna do it together, and everyone goes, way, and like, we're gonna be calm forever, way, everything's gonna be good, way. It's really cheesy. And then they're like, and there's one special lady, and everyone hears lady and they go, whoa, we're talking about Yuna. And they go, she really wanted to be here today. And I was like, Yuna couldn't be here, she's like saved the world. He's like, she's left us a note that just gets his piece of paper out, reads this note. But then you see Yuna's there. She takes off in the ship next to the stadium. It's like, she's there. She's here. She is here. She's literally here. And she couldn't give 2 minutes. She didn't want to give 2 minutes. She had to get out of there. She's got places to be, things to do. She couldn't give 2 minutes to say anything to these people in any way. She's not doing it anymore, but she is there. She has come all the way there. She's traveled to the place, but then she's got to make this dramatic leave. Yuna's not here, and then you see this giant red hot rod spaceship just take off behind the stadium. It's so obvious, and then just fly away, and it cuts to the girls like, we better get going. And you're like, that's just rude, man. That's just really rude. That's just rude. Either way, let's talk about this summary here of Final Fantasy X-2. Final Fantasy X-2 is, if I was to try and nail it, and I like to do this, like, what is the mindset that made this game come to be, and why is it the way it is? Because I think I can declare this probably a D. It's filled with problems. It's got charm. It's got some really great moments, but it is also just a mess. It's a mess of a game that just throws so much at the wall. It's a splatter gun. It's a shotgun of ideas, and every single pellet hits. And 2 things. 1, I think this was a result of Final Fantasy X being really, really good, and that team being given a more free reign because of what they put together to go ahead and make a sequel to this very, very successful game Go and make a sequel to it, address some of the issues, but really just let off the leash a little bit. Like, go ahead, let's make a sequel. We need to do it very quickly. It's like 1 to 2 year turnaround. Go ahead and make the sequel. And off those guys went without the second point, somebody to say no. That is really important. You need somebody there who is taking all this on board, who's the director of your game, and going, yes, yes, no. No. Such things as, I think we have a little bit too much of, say, minigames. So keep it very generic, right? There's a little too much in the minigames. Do we really need this many? Probably not. Okay, let's strip those back then. Do we really want to take this story not really adding up here? Let's have a rethink of this. We only have 5 chapters. There's not a great deal of them at all. What is our goal here? Replayability. Okay, replayability is fine. We've done that a long time ago, right? We've done that in the early FFs where there were items you could miss before, like, usually the world changes, right? Typical FF players will know this is the world's one way, and then midway through the game, or, it'll flip to a different world entirely, and you can't access the other stuff again. That's pretty normal. A whole game structure being built on that, including you having to interact with very specific things during the tutorial. And if you don't do that, the rest of the game is screwed. Not fun. Just not fun. It might sound fun. Like, ooh, we'll wait till they find this out, right? You can see that sort of conversation happening. It's like, but somebody's going to find this out. And then they're going to find out this. And then they're going to know that they need to go back and do this. It's like, okay, yeah. For secrets and things and Easter eggs, I think that's fine. That's totally fine. Bricking your game and making them go, it's not bricked, but you get the idea. It's like you can't fulfill certain requirements because you didn't do something in the tutorial before you even knew to do this. Not super fun. If you're building it on a replayability factor, that's fine, but you should make these carrots obvious so people can chase them. That's why I wanted to replay the older games for those very reasons, is knowing they were going in there. That other no part is, okay, so we want triggers that involve, say, looking at all the video cameras that we've set up around Spira. Is it fun in the first place? Kind of, but not on the 3rd rotation, if not 4th or 5th. Like, it's kind of fun, but often you're clicking them and just kind of waiting to see if something happens, and something doesn't always happen. So, okay, do we really want the players doing this over and over again, just kind of hoping something might happen? That's not that fun. And again, like I said, certainly on multiple rotations through them, on the hope that something... Lots of these elements where you just want somebody to go, like the idea, let's refine it, let's streamline it, let's make sure this is fun first. Because if it's not, this isn't going to work. Is it really that fun to force the player to run through this whole section of game, like in the open world, hoping to have something happen? Not really. Is it really fun to do really long combination codes that actually... one of them that I gave up on was... I did give up, but as soon as I realized what it was, I was like, this is just not fun and I'm not doing it. It was the Thunder Plains Lightning Tower codes. What it wants you to do is input these very correct codes into 10 lightning towers. So there's 10 of them. And it's basically just a usual rhythm game thing. It'll drop A, and then you have to wait to see what drops. But the problem is they speed up significantly towards the end and then get vastly more complex. It's also like PS2 era graphics, so you have a very small response time. And you just know that actually the design of this game is that it's really boring for the first 40 seconds because they're quite long. And then the final 15 seconds is where you're going to trip people up, which makes this into a very long process to trial and error it and get it right eventually. There's definitely some satisfaction in pulling that kind of stuff off, but it's just not that fun. Especially when there's, very little leeway of error allowed whatsoever. It's just, again, it's like coming back to Insane's fun. Can I recommend it? I can't. It's hard to describe this game other than you should play it, but you should play it with a guide and know when you want to not do things. I found I had a better time when I was like, no, I'm not taking part in this. Like Sphere Break, I'm not doing this. It's very silly. Why you've built a 25-minute tutorial for a game that the player can just not continue if they fail 3 times while actually trying to play the game, is silly. It's just silly design choices, and it's a real mishmash. I do have to rate it as a D. I think it's got more problems than necessary. Some people love this game. That was very apparent. Absolutely love it. I think it's just a mess. It's a real mess. It has so much promise early game, and you feel the bait and switch of the pop star stuff, and then the game actually like gets going. You're like, oh wow, this combat system's pretty good. After having played with the combat system throughout the whole game now, it's good. I prefer FF10's. I think it's got a number of issues with the dress sphere and the grid sphere system. Namely, it has that problem that a few of the games run into, in that the things you want to master, so Thief or whatever, once you master them, you're kind of forced to drop them because you're no longer learning anything. I would have much preferred them to introduce something like FF5, or just use the normal FF10 system, of you pull something out of that into your repertoire. So if I learn Thief and I learn a really good thing out of Thief, such as Steal, right? Steal is very good. I've mastered it. Now I can pull that into my repertoire of abilities while I'm learning something else. So class, job, sub-job, things like that, I think would have added so much more to it. So by the end of it, if you've mastered if you've mastered a variety of jobs, you actually have like a mix of abilities that you can roll into your character because you've mastered all these things, but it doesn't let you do that. Instead, it's like, oh, you mastered this ability, this job, so you don't really play it anymore. I also do not think the limit break and grid sphere system worked. It didn't for me. And the idea was that you put in your jobs into your grid sphere. That has a good concept, is that the grid sphere is built for different, basically they're sub-jobs, right? So I had like a white mage with a black mage grid sphere, which meant I had access to my black mage abilities. So there's an element of that in there, but you have to lock it into that instead of being able to be choosy with what you've actually mastered. But the idea that they had in the game is that they wanted you to swap. They liked the idea in 10 that you were swapping between the characters. So in this, what they wanted to do was swap jobs on your turn. And if you went round certain loops and traveled through certain colors, because they're all color-coded, you would not only get a limit break, but some passive bonuses to go along with it. In theory, good. In practice, it's just so massively unnecessary in 999 out of 1,000 fights that it's just dead. Like, the limit break system for me was full dead because there's no need. But very midway through the game, auto attacking was so much faster and so much more efficient. I used Berserk, the Bloodlust Brooch, which gives you massive physical damage, and Berserk on one of your characters from the moment I got it. It was just made way more sense. It was just clearing out all the trash fights that you were doing. Meaning the idea of like spending turns swapping jobs, certainly enough to activate a limit break, total waste of time. Like, just totally unnecessary. Really missed it. Having the Aeons in 10, 10's is superior, and I would just think if they'd done it a slightly different way, it would have been more interesting. The concept was good. Execution not there. There's a lot of problems. But that's 10-2. It's a mess. It is a mess of a game. That's just needed some guidance, some drawing, pulling back, a little bit, streamlining, a little bit more like, let's think through this story. We've got these like big characters, but we're just bypassing. If this story had focused on the Civil War and that breakdown in Spira, I think the story would have been infinitely better. Given that Yuna has sacrificed so much in 10 to save Spira, and now, by her innocuous action of choosing the spear, who gets it, that's broken down society. That's an interesting story. I think that is where you go with there, of these guys being at loggerheads and Yuna having to sort of mature because she's been off on these, like, not childish, but like goofy Indiana Jones adventures. But in doing so has, you know, cracked the world in terms of its civility and social climate. Leading to, I think that would have been a much better story to really focus it on Yuna and doing that. Either way, that's 10-2. I'm going to try 13-2 now. See if our boy Snow is in there. We'll see. Bye, guys.